I looked upon my native country's walls. If once they were strong, now they were decayed, fatigued by time's inevitable race, by which their former valour now must fade. I went out to the fields. I saw the sun drink up the brooks now freed from winter's ice, and cattle of the mountain grumbling, which with its shadow stole from day the light. I went into my house. I saw that, stained, it was just rubble of an ancient room, my walking stick, more bowed and bearing less. I saw my sword was overcome with age, and nothing left on which to fix my glance that was not a remainder now of death. With these words, the Spanish poet Francisco de Quevedo y Villegas foresaw the demise of the Spanish Empire. I am talking about the Captain Alatriste adventure series by Spanish writer Arturo Pérez Reverte. Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world, and welcome to another episode of Amazing Worlds, where today I'm going to be exploring the series of Captain Alatriste by Spanish writer Arturo Pérez Reverte. Arturo Pérez Reverte himself is a really interesting character. He was actually a war correspondent for the Spanish national TV station, and he one day famously walked off camera in the middle of a conflict in Bosnia, I believe it was. I'll check my sources and put it in the description if I'm wrong, and then became an author, a writer of novels, and now he's actually an academic of the Spanish language, so he's very well renowned. He's probably the most prolific Spanish novelist, but one of his what he became particularly famous for, one of his main series is the Captain Alatriste series. The series focuses on the Spanish Siglo de Oro, the golden century of Spain, which focuses at the height of the Spanish Empire, when famously the sun didn't set in our empire. It was an empire that extended all the way from the Philippines to Germany, the Netherlands, Spain, and Central and South America. One of the biggest empires in the history of the world. The empire was supported by what was, I believe it was, the very first professional army corps, the tercios. The tercios were a special unit that combined pikemen with sort of the first kind of working, reliable set of muskets or arquebuses, I think it's called in English. So it combined swords, pikemen, and guns, muskets at the time. And checking my notes here, the tercios were actually undefeated throughout the 15th, the 16th, and the first half of the 17th century. So they were super successful, and they were the key to Spain maintaining its domination of Europe and most of the world during that time. And the novels, they focus on Captain Alatriste, the captain, although he's not actually a captain, he's just a soldier in the tercios, and the stories are told from his young squire Íñigo Balboa. Yeah, Balboa like Balboa. So to date, there are 7 novels published, with 2 more in the pipeline, but Pérez Reverte is taking a long time to publish these. I remember I started reading them when I was in high school, secondary education, and there's still 2 more to come out in the series. The first one, Captain Alatriste, sort of introduces the character and his squire and sort of who he is and what he does. The second novel, Purity of Blood, deals with a conflict between the English royal family and the Spanish royal family. Number 3, the son of a brother after the events in book 2, Captain Alatriste and Inigo, his squire, they have to go over to Flanders to fight in the campaigns there and get away from Spain to avoid trouble. So the setting changes. Number 4, the King's Gold. The captain and Inigo come back from Flanders, and they are hired to do an undercover secret mission to rescue the King's Gold. Number 5, the man in the yellow doublet, correct my pronunciation there, follows Captain Alatriste and the dealings in Madrid and his passionate affair with a famous theatre actress from the period. Number 6, Pirates of the Levant, sees El Capitan and Inigo fighting against the Turks in the campaigns in the east of the Mediterranean. So again, we have a change of setting there. And number 7, Bridge of Assassins, sees us back in Madrid with Captain Alatriste facing off with his nemesis, an Italian assassin for hire, Walterio Malatesta. And that's where the published books stop. There's 2 more in the works with the working titles of Alcázar's Revenge, one of the recurring characters in the series, and the last one, Mission in Paris. Now, the basis of the novels is the historical setting of the Golden Century Spain. Captain Alatriste is a fictional character, although allegedly he is allegedly featured in the painting by Velázquez, the rendition of Breda, which I'm going to show here, there, and allegedly he's portrayed as one of the characters there, according to the book. But he's a fictional character. And the motivation behind writing the novels for Pérez Reverte was that through his daughter he saw how poorly depicted this era of Spanish history was being taught at school. So he decided to write out the book to give a more sort of fair or realistic impression. And actually the first book is co-authored with his daughter, but we're talking about in the 90s. The novels are very easy to read, they're not very long. I'm not quite sure how the translation of certain Okay, my camera just crapped out on me again, so we're back up and running. So as I was saying, the novels are set in a historical time period, so they're not really fantasy at all. It's kind of historical fiction, but they're very easy to read, they're not very long, and as I was mentioning, I'm not entirely sure if certain sort of quaint expressions from the time would have translated well into English, but they're definitely very enjoyable. They do give a glimpse and an insight into a very interesting time of Spanish history, and even if you're really not into Spanish history, they're not really about that. It's about the adventures of the captain and the changes in setting from Spain to the boat adventures in the Mediterranean, to the campaigns in Flanders. Keep it really interesting, and it doesn't feel repetitive at all. The books in Spain are very, very popular, and they actually spawned a role-playing game in 2002, and the biggest budget movie in Spanish cinema history in 2006, Alatriste, which you can actually watch for free on YouTube. I will leave the link in the description below, with Viggo Mortensen in the title role of El Capitan, and he is incredible in the movie. I think the movie itself deserves its own review, because the cinematography just looks like a painting throughout. It's a great movie. And then in 2015, a 13 episode season was created again for Spanish television. So it's got its own sort of culture and myth around the books. When the next 2 will come out, it is going to take years, unfortunately. but Pérez Reverte is aware that he's got them in mind, and he will write one, and then he may write another 2 or 3 novels, and then come back for the last one or so. But definitely a series that is really enjoyable. It doesn't get boring, it doesn't get tedious. There are some great characters in there. The Capitan's main antagonist, the Italian assassin Arturo Malatesta, is actually likable. He's a great villain, and he's sort of the dark reflection of the Captain, and kind of what the Captain could have been if he had decided to go a different way and not be a soldier. And even the moral code of the Captain is strange and dubious. He's got certainly a moral code, he's certainly a moral person, but he won't hesitate to kill an old friend if duty beckons or the situation calls for it, as he does in some of the books. We are introduced to real life historical characters. So King Philip IV of Spain appears in one of the books, and there's a plot that surrounds him. The poet Francisco de Quevedo, whose sonnet I read at the beginning of the book, is a close friend of El Capitan, and he's teaching Inigo how to read. And certain other historical figures very relevant in Spanish history. So not a genre that I actually delve in deeply, historical fiction. I've read a few. They tend to be a bit weak, a bit hit and miss. It's kind of, you take a historical event in time and build this whole fiction around it, where generally the author only knows so much about that time period. There's one that comes to mind, I think Pompeii by Sam Harris was one, where we know that the volcano erupted, and then he builds this whole fiction around it, but it's not, they tend not to make for great stories. It's just a setting, it's just a different setting for interpersonal stories. Here with the Captain Alatriste series, there's no great intent or mission. It's just a fun, swashbuckling, musket firing, dirty, grimy adventures, a bit like the Sharp series, which I haven't read, but I got a feeling I've seen some people have compared it to those. So if you like that kind of thing, definitely worth reading. And if it's not your sort of thing, read one or two. They are very much independent. Some characters are recurring, and over time El Capitan gets older, Inigo grows up, and he starts to have his own liaisons which become part of the plot, but you do not really need to read them in order. But I'll definitely recommend starting with the first one, and maybe number 3, The Song of a Brother, is quite a good one to read. So anyway, that is my take on the Captain Alatriste series of books. Let me know what you think, leave your comments please, like, subscribe, or even dislike, but let me know why, and we can have a conversation about it. It's almost New Year. Maybe I feel like I should do a video, a recap of what these first few months of the channel have been like, and what my plans are, what I get up to. So I'll think about it. I'm off to London for a few days, where I'm hoping to grab some new books and comics, and maybe I'll be sharing those. But until then, take care, have fun, and I'll see you next time. Bye.